In Thailand, archaeologist Luke rides his scooter while ignoring all the calls from someone named Kasem. Soon a bunch of cars surround him and Kasem asks Luke to return the tube with the painting he stole from his boss. One of Kasem's men is armed, so Luke announces he'll pull over. Instead he stops the scooter and waits for the cars to move ahead before taking a different road. A chase ensues and Luke moves fast enough to make his pursuers crash against other cars. He then enters the market where the cars can't follow, so the only enemy left is a guy on a bike. When Luke enters an apartment, the space is so tight that the biker crashes too. After going down the stairs, Luke leaves the building, only to get blocked by Kasem's car. He's thrown off his scooter, but since the locals immediately surround the car, Luke gets to crawl away. Kasem scares the crowd by shooting in the air and sends his thugs to continue the chase on foot. With an injured leg, Luke moves as fast as possible while his enemies open fire. He calls his teammates to tell them he won't make it to his flight, so they tell him to take the train instead. After crossing another market, Luke steals a merchant's food cart and Kasem follows him in his car again. Luke disconnects the food cart from the bike and it crashes against Kasem's vehicle, causing the flames to spread and cover his windshield. Kasem then crashes into the traffic and the police surround him while Luke gets to escape. At the station, Luke jumps off the bike and runs after the train, managing to get aboard at the last second. That night he falls asleep on his seat and dreams of being in an ancient building where he finds and steals a golden mask. When he wakes up he finds a woman named Esme sitting across from him. She explains that her job is to recover unique paintings and that the men in the other seats work for her. Luke refuses to give her the painting, so Esme takes out a knife as a thug starts choking him from behind. Esme tries to take the tube away and kicks Luke when he doesn't let go, only for him to grab her arm instead. By taking off her jacket, Esme walks away. Then Luke grabs a plate from a table and breaks it on the thug's head before headbutting him to finally force him to drop him. Now he can grab Esme while kicking down another thug, however Esme quickly beats him up before walking away again. Luke has to fight off another man before reaching her and Esme defends herself with a knife, accidentally cutting the tube strap in the process. As they hold on to different ends of the strap, Luke dodges the flying knife and pulls at the tube to send Esme into the bathroom, where he locks her up. Afterward Luke climbs to the roof of the train car and waits until a water tower is close enough to jump onto it. He doesn't grab the railing well enough and ends up falling through a shack's roof. Then he calls his teammates to ask them to pick him up. Meanwhile in London, Luke's sister Charlotte is discussing the details of her divorce with her cheating ex-husband Harold and his lawyer. He wants full custody of their son, which makes her very angry. Later Charlotte is at work at the museum and is shocked to find Luke. He pretends he's here to visit her, but they almost never see each other, so Charlotte guesses he's in trouble. Luke thinks Charlotte should join him in his adventures like they used to do with their father, but Charlotte reminds him she's a mother now, so she wants to keep her curator job. Then Luke tells her that there's damage on one of the paintings. While she looks at it, he steals a different painting from the wall. The alarm immediately goes off and Luke runs as the doors begin locking themselves. Charlotte follows him outside and asks for the painting, but Luke says he'll only give it to her if she gets in his car. He takes off at great speed, doing some crazy turns to confuse the police vehicles that are now chasing him. After going through a few narrow streets, he enters the back of a truck driven by his teammates Murphy and Deb. Charlotte recognizes them because they're her father's old team. While Luke and Charlotte argue over the life she's chosen, Murphy takes a close look at the stolen painting and concludes it's not what they're looking for. Luke tells his sister she can take the painting back before putting her to sleep with a spray. Moments later she wakes up alone on a park bench. Charlotte rushes back to the museum, where Inspector Jamal is investigating the case. He's suspicious of Charlotte helping Luke, but while they argue, they notice that the painting has been put back in its place. After work Charlotte tries to pick up her son Thomas, but Harold won't let him go with her because he's heard that she's a suspect now. A furious Charlotte goes to yell at Luke for ruining her life and finds him hanging out with a rich man named Owen. He explains he's dying of cancer, so he's hired the team to find the Mountain of Youth, which may be the only cure. Charlotte says that the fountain is just a myth, but Luke thinks all myths have a trace of truth behind them. Dozens of cultures have written about the fountain across all continents, which can't be a coincidence. It's said that the location of the fountain is hidden from men by God. The team believes that the information has been passed down from generation to generation in specific families that form the protectors of the path, whose job is to protect the secret. Luke theorizes that Esme is one of those protectors. In 1600, 6 artists made a pact to reveal the location by hiding clues in different paintings. These are the paintings Luke has been stealing from other countries. The paintings have secret signatures that read 6 and 1 in Latin, meaning 6 canvases but 1 path. They're also marked with different letters, but the team hasn't figured out their meaning yet. Charlotte realizes they've stolen the wrong Rembrandt painting and want her to share where the real one is. She isn't interested in joining them because she's too worried about her son, so Owen offers his very powerful lawyers to help her. In return, Charlotte tells them to research the Vanderbilt family. In the evening, Luke is reading about the Vanderbilts in a cafe where he's approached by Esme. She tells him to drop the search or she'll have to shoot every single team member. The next day Luke attends Thomas's piano recital and tells Charlotte he's found the real painting. After some arguing, he convinces her to join the retrieval. Sometime later, the team is on a ship in Ireland looking for a sunken cruise liner where the painting was last seen. Special drones are sent underwater to cut the part of the cruise liner containing all the first-class goods and attach flotation tanks to it to bring it up to the surface. Once the cruise liner is up, the siblings go inside to find the painting with Charlotte acting as a guide thanks to an old map. On the main ship, the team detects something approaching them on the radar and tries to warn Luke, but the radios aren't working. A helicopter soon drops Esme and her men on the cruise liner. Inside, Charlotte drinks some alcohol she found in a cabinet while Luke uses a blowtorch to open a closet with Vanderbilt's name. He takes out an old box and inside he finds the missing painting, so the siblings have a toast to their success. Luke wants to steal some jewelry too, but Charlotte slaps his hand, reminding him that they aren't grave robbers. The flotation tanks are starting to fail, so the siblings don't have much time left. When they try to leave, they're surrounded by Esme's team, who are all armed. This doesn't stop the duo from fighting them, and in the process the bag with the painting falls. The men open fire, which blocks Esme from approaching the bag. The bullets bounce on the liner's metal and even hit the helicopter. Unfortunately, they damage the flotation tanks too. The cruise liner starts flooding and Luke slips on the water, so a man takes the chance to hold him at gunpoint. Charlotte breaks a chair on the guy's head and Luke rushes to retrieve the painting, only to freeze when Esme takes Charlotte hostage. The helicopter leaves because of the damage and the cruise liner starts going down. Luke doesn't believe that Esme will hurt Charlotte and tries to buy time when suddenly the cruise liner starts shaking. Charlotte uses the chance to hit Esme and push her over the balcony to drop her in the water. When the siblings try to run out, a strong wave pushes them back in and Luke's leg gets stuck in a net, keeping him underwater. As the liner begins to sink, Charlotte dives in and frees her brother, allowing them to quickly swim to the surface and be rescued by their team in a boat. When Charlotte returns to London, Harold asks her to take Thomas because he's moving to Japan for a new job. He mentions his new company and Charlotte realizes Owen did this so she could have the kid. Then she joins the team to look at the letters again using the new painting. They form the word wicked, and because of the 6 in one sentence, they conclude it refers to the Wicked Bible. That's a misprint of the King James Bible from 1631, containing the commandment thou shalt commit adultery instead of thou shalt not commit adultery. The team wonders if it wasn't a mistake and that misprint was done on purpose to mark specific Bibles that had the clues to find the fountain. All those Bibles were destroyed except for one. Suddenly Jamal and his officers burst into the room to arrest the siblings, however they're interrupted by the arrival of Kasem and his men who keep everyone at gunpoint. Luke offers a deal. Kasem can have him and all the paintings if he lets his team go. Kasem agrees and Charlotte leaves the room with the others. Then Luke pretends he's going to grab the paintings, but instead he plays some music and quickly hides under the table. This distraction allows the cops to attack the criminals, starting a big fight. Soon punches lead to open fire and Luke's car is damaged by the bullets. In the middle of the chaos, Luke sneaks around and leaves through the back door, where his team picks him up on a boat. The fight continues and in the end the police win. Jamal looks at the computer and notices the quote from the Wicked Bible. Sometime later Luke is in a desert, where he finds a glass of glowing liquid. When he takes a sip, Charlotte and Thomas begin aging incredibly quickly. A voice says don't drink and Luke drops the glass. When it breaks, he wakes up on a plane. The team is on a flight to Austria where the last Wicked Bible is, and Thomas has joined the adventure. Later at the Austrian National Library, Luke, Charlotte, and Deb are allowed to enter thanks to a big donation made by Owen. The Billionaire is currently with Thomas at a restaurant answering all the kids' questions about the rich life. The trio looks at the Bible in a secret room, where the librarian tells them about a second misprint that includes a dirty word. Meanwhile Murphy keeps guard outside and sees Esme arrive with her men, so he warns the others. Luke goes out to meet Esme and after some banter, they start fighting using the shelves and the furniture as props. One of Esme's men tries to help her but Luke quickly beats him up. Then Esme tries holding him at gunpoint and Luke disarms her, so instead she uses a rope to choke him. Since she's stepping on the rope too, Luke pushes her and leaves her hanging from the chandelier. As Luke returns to the secret room, Murphy informs him that the men have covered all the exits so they need to go with Plan B. The trio puts the librarian to sleep with the spray and steals the Bible before Deb puts a small bomb on the floor. This creates a hole that allows them to escape through the sewers. At the same time Esme's men try to kidnap Owen, who easily beats them up in just a few minutes without letting Thomas get hurt. In the evening Jamal arrives at the library and starts tracking Luke. At a hotel, the team inspects the Bible and finds a large digit repeating pattern on the gilding that only uses the numbers 1 to 7. However, they can't find a way to decode it. At that moment Charlotte announces she's leaving because she's heard what happened to Thomas and doesn't want to put him in danger. On their way out, Thomas tells Charlotte that the team is tackling the problem the wrong way. The duo immediately goes back and Thomas tells the team that the digits aren't literal numbers, they represent the 7 basic musical notes. He plays a song following the code and a quick internet search reveals it's Water in the Desert. This song is so old that nobody knows who wrote it, but it honors the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The team highlights the 7 wonders on a map and lays the path from the paintings on top of it to discover that both paths line up except for the pyramids of Giza, which means the fountain is there. They get ready to travel to Egypt and Owen convinces Charlotte to come by promising that he's hiring security. That night Luke dreams about the mask again, and this time a strange figure reaches out to him. When it touches the sand, a black substance begins spreading and corrupts Luke. At that moment he wakes up and Charlotte asks him how much he knows about Owen. Luke promises he's a cool guy, but she's worried that he may want to find the fountain to sell it. Meanwhile in the Vatican, the leader of the Protectors gives Esme a special key to stop anyone from drinking from the fountain. Sometime later the team arrives in Egypt. Luke shows Thomas some advanced scans of the pyramids that reveal hidden chambers, which were never accessed until today. At the pyramid, Charlotte watches the security team and wonders why they have so many bags. A famous professor gives them a tour of the pyramid but he doesn't know how to get into the secret chambers. Owen is getting very impatient and orders his men to start digging, revealing that the things in their bags are tools. The professor protests against damaging such an important historical monument but Owen's men kick him out. Charlotte also protests and Owen snaps at her, his speech getting more cold and calculated. Outside, Jamal arrives and asks to be let inside, but the guards send him away. Jamal comes back in a few minutes with a bunch of police cars, so the security team opens fire and starts blowing the vehicles up. The survivors take cover and fire back. Nearby, Esme watches and waits. Back to the team, they find a hidden passage and cross it to finally reach the special chamber. There's a large structure that needs to be moved but they aren't strong enough to push it. Owen orders his men to get their tools and Charlotte is horrified to notice they have guns in their bags too. The tools don't work either and Owen wants to set up explosives, which both siblings protest against. While the adults argue, Thomas finds an old instrument and starts playing it, which reveals a system of pipes in the chamber that transmit the sound and affect the structure. At the right moment Charlotte hits the gong and the entire chamber shakes before the sand on the structure begins forming shapes. Using just one hand, Charlotte can now move the structure to uncover a lift. The team hops on it and starts going down. Outside, Murphy and Deb decide that the security team has gone too far and surprise them from behind to bring a few men down. Unfortunately Deb gets shot in the arm and Murphy has to rescue her. When a guard is about to kill them, Esme cuts in and beats the surrounding thugs up. More men come after her with open fire so she uses a body as a shield while shooting back. Once the security team has been defeated, Jamal and Esme agree to work together and they enter the pyramid, where they proceed to beat up or shoot all the guards protecting the open structure. Esme finds rope in the bag so they can use it to go down the lift shaft. Underground, the lift stops and drops the team in a corridor with paradoxical inscriptions on the walls. They reach a dead end with a carving of the Tree of Life, so Charlotte takes an amber from a statue of goddess Nonet and puts it on the tree. The wall opens and they enter another room only to find themselves at a great height. Luke touches a jewel on a carving and causes a bunch of stairs to come out from the walls. They go down the stairs and reach the ground, where a small hole suddenly opens to reveal even more stairs and another chamber. There's a small puddle of water in the middle that appears to be the Fountain of Youth. Charlotte reminds everyone of the warnings on the walls. If someone isn't ready to get a blessing, they'll get a curse instead. Owen wants Luke to drink first and gets pretty aggressive, so Charlotte guesses he's not really dying. A very cold Owen confirms he came for the fountain to sell it later and proceeds to shoot Luke in the arm, leaving him with no choice but to drink. As soon as Luke touches the puddle, water starts filling the chamber to make an actual fountain. Blood falls from Luke's wound and the water surrounds him to lift him. His hands begin to glow and Luke sees a younger version of himself in them. However, when he's about to drink he also sees Charlotte and Thomas aging rapidly. He chooses not to drink to protect his family and pulls his hands apart, so the water rewards him by healing his injury. A furious Owen tries shooting him again but the water protects Luke before gently putting him down. Then Owen drops some of his blood into the fountain too. As the water starts surrounding him, Esme uses the key on a wall while remembering what the leader explained. If someone caring drinks the water, they'll be granted eternal youth in exchange for the life of their loved ones. But if someone who only loves themselves drinks, the fountain drains that person's own life. Owen drinks and immediately ages, screaming in unbearable pain. As the water goes crazy around him, Esme hits a new gong and all doors start closing. The hole in the ground does the same, so the team rushes up the stairs and leaves Owen to die in the water. On their way up, Owen's bodyguard slips and falls to his death. Luke also slips and Esme has to help him get back up. The corridors are also closing so they have to dodge lots of obstacles to make their way out. Once everyone is outside, Jamal has to admit that the real criminal behind everything was Owen. Esme confesses she's impressed by Luke's strong will and kisses his cheek as she says goodbye. The siblings want to go on a new adventure and Thomas says he has an idea.